Hello everybody, Kyle here. I am going to review episode 3 of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. I actually don't know the title of this episode. It's probably up there, but I didn't see it when I clicked on it, so I'm just calling it episode 3. I was kind of torn on this episode because I think what I'm liking from this show is it is like a massive epic. It feels like a book. Like if there's ever an example of a show that actually feels like a book, this is it. It really has a number of characters, a number of storylines that all seem to be connecting to each other. I sometimes get the feeling like I'm reading Game of Thrones when I'm watching this show. It's like one of those experiences where there are so many characters, so many storylines, but at the same time, it feels like it could be to its detriment. And I don't know if it's because of the pacing, if it's because of the choice in when and where to introduce these characters. But one of my criticisms I had from episode 2 after watching it was that I thought they had introduced too many characters in these first number of episodes, where I would have liked to rather sit with more Galadriel and maybe focus on the dwarves in a later episode. But here, I feel like they just they looked at my criticism. They didn't look at my criticism, but they saw my criticism and they just were like, okay, well, we're going to introduce more characters in episode 3. And the characters they introduced Elendil, they introduced Isildur, they introduced Arryn, Isildur's sister, Elendil's daughter, they introduced the Queen Regent of Numenor, they introduced Pharazôn, they introduced, I guess you could say more orc characters. It looks like Sauron is coming at maybe next episode. So they introduced a lot of new characters that we hadn't seen before in this show. And for episode 3, it was like, I kind of wish we spent a little bit more time with characters like Elrond, with characters like Durin, with characters that we had seen in the previous episodes, because I feel like we hadn't yet really grown attached to those characters. And now to get another, group of characters, it felt like it was a bit too much. But I did like the characters we got. Like, I liked all of them. And Isildur, I was a little unsure of when he was first introduced with the ship. But then I really liked his dynamic with his father at the end and the sister. Like, I thought that was great. I really do love the Harfoots. I think this episode really gave us the best, not just use, but scenes with them. I thought the scene between Nori's father and her mother was quite touching, and I was getting, like, kind of memories of Samwise and Frodo when I was looking at Nori and Poppy, and there were things that harken back to The Lord of the Rings as I'm watching this show that I really loved. But I think the two things with this episode I really loved with the Harfoots, it was the scene with the Nori and her trying to stand up for the stranger, and the stranger essentially causing this ruckus in the in their little village area, and she's just trying to do the good thing, and your heart aches for Nori because you believe she's a really good person, and yet what she did cost her the family's reputation in the Harfoot clan. And I thought that was such a heartbreaking scene, and the actress that plays Nori, I don't know her name, but she did a wonderful job in that scene. And then also just the end scene with the stranger helping them. It felt a lot like what Tolkien would do, whether it's in the books, you read a lot about like pity and mercy, and these are things that transcend stories and they end up helping in other ways, whether it's Gollum, whether it's even like Saruman, like other types of characters in Lord of the Rings. And in the case of this episode, it was the Stranger, and I really loved how he's helping the Harfoots now. He sees them as their friend. There's also that one beautiful scene where the Harfoots are talking about everyone they had lost, and you see poor Poppy and her family. She apparently, it sounds like, lost her entire family, and the only family she has now are the Brandyfoots, and that was just, it was so heartbreaking. But yes, like, I thought the production design was great. I thought the music by Bear McCreary is outstanding. I am pretty much, you know, into this world. I'm loving the actors, the characters. I just wish that maybe in the coming episodes, like, we have basically met all the characters we are supposed to meet. And I hope that now, going forward, I hope that the show just builds upon each of these characters. Because I'm liking where the story's going. It's just that it's like, it's kind of a lot to process. Because even Game of Thrones, when it first started, that was a show that you got used to those characters. And, I mean, for everyone saying, oh, there's 100 characters in Game of Thrones, they still focused on center characters in that show. And I feel like we've been introduced to like 100 characters. Maybe not 100, but it feels like we've been introduced to 100 characters in the Rings of Power. And I'm still trying to get to know all of them. So I'm still enjoying this show. I think that it is a ton of fun to watch. And yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Have a great day, and see you on the next one.